welcome to Youth Connect. I'm Aiden.
I'm Kevin.
Hi, I'm Logan.
I'm Jeffrey.
And welcome to our
Youth Connect.
Youth Connect.
Welcome.
Yep. So I am so happy to have you guys here today. Welcome to another awesome Friday. For those who don't know what in the world is Youth Connect, well, it's usually a group of us, a group of young adults coming to share with you some awesome news. And we are advocates for all abilities. And we love to share with you some video game news, some world news, some cooking knowledge, and maybe even a little bit of music. For everybody here today, I want to put into our minds, we will not be having Joshua or Nibras, but I mean, we kind of are used to it, but it's okay because I will be bringing you some news to be in respect of Nibras, and I'm going to make sure that everybody here is going to be super awesome, and I bet you guys are going to have some awesome news today. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. If you guys know, usually when we start off with Youth Connect, we got to usually do something. We got to start off with the news. But what kind of news? If you know, the first thing that we always have to start off with to start off Youth Connect is some gaming news. All right, so this is where we bring our game of the week. This is either a game that is going to be coming out soon, a game that has released recently, or an old classic. And today is a game that actually came out exactly, I'm pretty sure, a week ago. And today's game of the week is Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. So why would I talk about this game? This game is quite incredible because it's probably one of my favorite RPG games of all time. I'm probably a bit biased because technically it is an old game and it comes from my childhood. So technically it's not the best RPG out there, but I think it's awesome. Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door released for the Nintendo GameCube in 2004, and it remained a beloved title in the RPG genre. And after some long-awaited time, this sequel to the original Paper Mario continues the unique blend of action, puzzle solving, and turn-based combat, wrapped in a charming paper-crafted world, and now has been revamped and redone in a really, really faithful remake for 2024. So what is going on in the world of Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door? Well, you will be following Mario as he embarks on a quest to rescue Princess Peach and uncover the secrets of the Thousand-Year Door. Set in the quirky town of Rogueport and its surrounding areas, Mario has to collect the crystal shards to unlock the legendary door and thwart the evil plans of the X-Nauts. So why is this game so interesting? Well, obviously it's made out of paper. Mario has abilities, turning himself into an airplane, rolling himself up into a roll, and so many more other power-ups. And interestingly enough, they're technically all curses, but Mario uses what he can, and he does it quite well. This game is amazing. Very good RPG. If you want to play an RPG that really has a good amount of content, don't think that you'll just play as Paper Mario, because in Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, you play as Paper Mario, you play as Princess Peach, and you play as Bowser. All three of them with all of their own unique story, all wrapped together to make Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. It released on May 23rd, so if you have a Nintendo Switch, get that remake because that remake is awesome. Anyways, though, this has been your first gaming news, and next up will be Kevin with some all-important news, and I just cannot wait to hear about the interesting fact that's going to be shared.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Youth Connect News. I'm your host, Kevin Aruja. Let's get right into the headlines. The Ontario introducing financial literacy as a new high school for graduation requirement. The collaboration key to successfully developing Toronto's waterfront. The stadium in Etobicoke officially renamed in honor of the former Toronto mayor, Rob Ford. And Lionel Messi's no-show at Vancouver Whitecaps game leads to petition to ticket refund. The Ontario government says that financial literacy and greater exposure to a priority economic sector career options will be part of an evolving of the high school programs and requirement over the next 2 years. Starting in 2025, students will have to complete a new financial literacy requirement as part as a grade 10 math course to demonstrate practical skills and proficient application of knowledge in financial literacy skills. The component will show students how to do things like create and manage a household budget, save for home or asset, and protect themselves for financial fraud, the ministry says. Students will have to obtain a score of 70% or higher to meet the graduation requirement. Those who don't pass will be able to attempt the component once more within the grade 10 maths course before they must cover the material through credit recovery, an option which helps students who fail the course to successfully complete the concepts. Starting in September 2024, students entering grade 9 will need to earn a grade 9 or 10 technological education credit in order to obtain their diploma. Starting that year, the EQAO math test in grade 9 will comprise 10% or more of a student's final math mark. The province says that standardized practice currently used by many teachers already. The province said it is also revamping the guidance in career education policy and program, which was last updated in 2013, in order to ensure that it is responsive to the way various professions have evolved over the last decade and how they will change in the future. Boards will receive clear expectations on creating modernized guidance and career education programs for grades 7 to 12 and for providing students exposure to skilled trades and priority economic sectors. The province says this will be accompanied by an investment for up to $14 million in 2024 to 25 for career coaching for grade 9 and 10 students in publicly funded schools. A collaborative approach must be taken to best develop the city's central waterfront, says a new report by Toronto Region Board of Trade. Released on Tuesday, the 47-page report titled Ripple Effect: Unlocking Toronto's Waterfront Potential was developed in collaboration with the Business of Cities and is sponsored by the Waterfront Business Improvement Area. It highlights the various roles Toronto's waterfront plays in the municipal economy and outline key priorities to optimize the area's value down the line. To do so, two fast-track recommendations are being offered: a team waterfront approach coupled with a series of projects that will improve its connectivity with the rest of the city. The report outlined the key challenges facing the development of the stretch of land between Ontario Place to the Portlands, including physical constraints like scales, connectivity and quality of place, economic identity and visions and direction, and resourcing commitment and prioritization. It will also identify 9 principles for the best practices in transforming Toronto's waterfront area, drawing from another prominent waterfront cities like Sydney, London, Singapore, Amsterdam, and Gothenburg, Sweden. Saad Usami, the board's director of economic research, said it's all about being coordinated and more collaborative in an effort to build a true world-class waterfront city. He said that Intel stakeholders having a shared vision for Toronto's waterfront and advocating a greater connectivity between the waterfront and the city and surrounding areas. In the coming months, the TRBOT will be convening leaders from organizations across the waterfront to come up with a cohesive vision for the area. A stadium in Toronto's West End has been officially renamed in honor for former Mayor Rob Ford. Doug Ford's brother, Ontario Premier Doug Ford, and Mayor Olivia Chow attended the renaming ceremony Tuesday evening at Etobicoke Centennial Park Stadium, now known as Rob Ford Stadium. The Premier recounted his brother's love for football during the ceremony, sharing stories about Rob's interactions with the players he coached and how he helped them win championships. Ford went on to thank the mayor and the city council for approving the renaming. Rob Ford's daughter, Stephanie, also attended the ceremony, saying that the stadium was an important place for her father. She remembered the father's dedication to the players, helping them succeed outside of the game. The 64th mayor of Toronto, unalive in 2016 at the age of 46 after a battle with a rare form of cancer. He served as the mayor from 2010 to 2014 and represented Etobicoke North as a councillor before and after this tenure until he passed away. Despite the resistance from some councillors, the motion passed 17 to 6 with Chow's support. The mayors noted that her late husband, Jack Layton, and Ford were friends, were sat beside and each other at the city council, where they sometimes talk about football. And in sports news, the hundreds of frustrated fans have signed a petition calling for tickets to be refunded for the Lionel Messi didn't play for the Vancouver Whitecaps over the weekend. The online petition began collecting signatures after Inter Miami announced it would be headed to Vancouver without the Argentine superstar, nor teammates Luis Suarez and Sergio Busquets. The Whitecaps were expecting the largest crowd since the team joined MLS, with a confirmed attendance of 51,000 out of 35 on Saturday. As of Tuesday morning, more than 1,300 people had signed the Change.org petition, saying using the players in promotion materials was misleading. Those who signed the petition are requesting a refund or substantial partial refund to reflect the actual value of the game without these players. It also calls for a fair pricing on future matches. So far, ticket holders have been offered a free ticket to a future regular season's match, and food drinks were discounted on the stadium on Saturday. The complimentary ticket will be there for the 2024 season. The way the MLS schedule is currently set up, the earliest Miami could visit Vancouver again during the regular seasons would be in 2026. In today's weather forecast, we've got sunny this afternoon. The temperature is now 24 degrees. And tomorrow we will get mainly sunny. The temperature will be 25 degrees. And now moving forward for interesting fact, this topic was going to be ice cream. Yes, ice cream. Ice cream is a frozen dessert typically made from milk or cream that has been flavored with a sweetener, either sugar or an alternative, and a spice such as cocoa or vanilla, or with fruit such as strawberries or peaches. Food coloring is sometimes added in addition to stabilizers. This mixture is cooled below the freezing point of water and stirred to incorporate airspace and prevent detectable ice crystals from forming. It can also be made by whisking a flavored cream base and liquid nitrogen together. The result is a smooth, semi-solid foam that is solid at very low temperatures, which is below 2 degrees or 35 Fahrenheit. It becomes more malleable as the temperature increases. Now, I got 6 facts about ice cream. The first one is, according to some of the origin of ice cream dated from 550 BCE in Persia. The second fact is their ice cream was composed of sweetened ice water crushed into tiny pieces sprinkled with toppings and fruits. The third fact is he made a mixture of honey and wine with the ice he got from the Apennine Mountains. And the fourth fact is there was also a belief that it came from Mongol Empire and had progressed to China and then Europe. Some stories also mention Catherine de' Medici, an Italian duchess who was said to have introduced the sorbet dessert, sorry for name butchering, to Francis with the help of some Italian chefs she brought to the country. And the last fact, King Charles I of England also offered his ice cream maker and sum of money to keep the ice cream formula a secret. That is it for me. Whenever it comes to the end of my segment, tune in for next week's news, weather, and a very interesting fact. Have a good weekend, folks, and it's back to Aiden.
Okay, so I was researching because I love ice cream. You were talking about ice cream. I was looking at ice cream, and I found an ice cream flavor that I want to ask everybody here. So here's the one flavor. So for Logan, for Jeff, for Kevin, if you had the choice, would you eat this French ice cream called Kraft macaroni and cheese ice cream?
No, I'm going to take it.
No, I wouldn't.
What about you, Logan? The chef extraordinaire. Would you eat a Kraft macaroni and cheese ice cream?
I would consider a sample.
Okay. Considering a sample, that's fine. You know what? I thought it was very interesting. And for everybody that's watching right now, would you eat this Kraft macaroni and cheese? You can leave a comment down below and then we'll be able to know who would eat it and who wouldn't eat it. Because I can definitely see that everybody here doesn't seem like they want to, but I would. Maybe just a bowl, not like a whole thing. Okay, so I want to talk about some news which is actually quite shocking. Not shocking, but more surprising, I guess. So, if you guys know, during the years of the pandemic, I should say, the years of the pandemic, there used to be a game that was actually extremely popular amongst a lot of people. And this game was called Wordle, and it probably is still popular with a lot of people, but not as popular as it was before. If you guys don't know, Josh Wardle, the splendid little daily puzzle game that provided light in an era on lockdowns, but also because of the multiple variants that sprang up every day. Now, though, there's been a lot of changes, and unfortunately, the New York Times is now taking legal action against one such game for a very similar name to its popular puzzle counterpart. So, for a few months after Wordle, I've been actually keeping count of how many lulls kind of games they have, and I have found multiple. Actually, also for the picture, it is a picture of a building because it's a picture of New York Times. One of the games would include Octortle, which has you simultaneously solving 8 Wordles at once, and don't forget Duo Trigordle. Duo Trigordle. Say that 5 times fast. Duo Trigordle has you solve 32 Wordles at the same time. And what about Nerdle, which is a game that requires you to solve math-based puzzles, or this very famous one called Worldle. So if you know, very shockingly, there used to be a game called GeoGuessr. It used to be very popular until eventually they made it so that people had to pay. So there was a game that came out recently called Worldle. Not to get confused with Wordle, World LE. That's a better way of I'm going to say with you. And you're put into a Google Street View location and have 6 guesses to pinpoint your exact location on a map of the world. And now with the brand new photo, this photo was just like an example piece of where you had to visit, and you kind of get just put down, and then you get like put down randomly, and you have to figure out where you are. So you have to identify buildings or landmarks or street names and start narrowing things down. It's awesome. It's awesome, awesome, awesome. But as the BBC reports, the New York Times is now decided to take Wordle or World LE, I'm going to say it now, to court. The game, which has a similar name to Wordle, but almost no shared characteristics, is, according to the Times, creating confusion and attempting to ride on the enormous goodwill of the Wordle brand. Thankfully, Wordle's creator, Corey McDonald, has actually contacted BBC News, and he's decided that he doesn't want to attend to rollover. He said that there's a whole industry of LE games. Why I told you why I found so many different variations is for this exact same reason. Wordle is about words. World LE is about the world. Flaggle is about flags. And such, he doesn't believe he's infringing on anything. Despite his game offering a paid version to remove ads, McDonald, the man and the soul behind the game, claims that most of the money made goes to paying Google for the Street View API. And he says he's undaunted. So really, I don't think that this is very fair towards this World LE creator. I think that them creating a free version of GeoGuessr, because remember, guys, GeoGuessr really limits the amount of things you can do on their site. and really kind of failed after a while because nobody wants to pay $5 a month just to play a game. And them creating this free version, honestly, it's lovely that people are creating things like that. But unfortunately, some people think that they are doing the right thing. And I feel like New York Times hopefully drops the lawsuit because honestly, taking this is going to end this court session at least with one session because this seems like a very silly thing to take the court to. They're not harming anybody and they're not making many profits out of this anyways. They're just doing it for the community. So hopefully things go well and I will keep you guys informed about the information next week. Anyways, though, this is where we will be bringing in something quite interesting because next up we are going to be having who's up next? I think next up actually will be going to Logan.
Hello, Youth Connect. I am Logan. So, we're about 1 month into this glorious summer, only 1 day away from June, and so I'm a little bit curious about what everybody's been doing during the summer. In my case, what I've been doing is a lot of bread making, actually. I've taken an online course on bread making, and it's yielded some pretty tasty results. Here's an example of something that I made during this course, and I'm only in week 2 of it. Look at that nice, delicious baguette. But anyway, I think today I'm going to share a little bit of knowledge that I've learned during this bread making class. And for today's topic, I will be talking about yeast. Now, you've probably heard a bunch about yeast before, about how it's a very essential and important ingredient for making a large variety of different breads. But you probably haven't heard, but you probably don't know a whole lot about it. And today I'm here to educate you all on yeast. So, quick little fact about yeast. Yeast is not actually like what most people think, like a basic ingredient. Yeast is actually an organism. That's right, these little pearls over here inside this bottle are actually essentially creatures, tiny little microorganisms that are part of the fungus family. And fun fact, yeast is actually one of the oldest domesticated organisms in the entire world, dating back to over 5,000 years ago. Humanity was capturing and cultivating yeast, and for the primary purpose of which being bread making. So you probably wonder, what is the function of yeast when it comes to making bread? Now, and to explain that function, it's pretty simple. Now you see, yeast loves sugar. It really loves to feed on sugar, and when it eats sugar, it converts it into two things: alcohol and the CO2 gas. Now, the alcohol is not exactly very important when it comes to bread making because during the high heat of the oven, during the baking process, the alcohol ends up getting cooked off. What's really important is the gas. Now, when yeast produces CO2 gas, those gas produce bubbles in the bread dough, and that helps the bread. It helps it rise, and it helps give it a nice fluffy interior during the baking. Now, to use yeast for a bread, you first have to start by adding yeast to a little bit of warm water. It can't be too hot though, because you'll kill the yeast if you do that, and you don't want that. You want the yeast to be alive and thrive. And that's really it. That process is called blooming. Sometimes they'll add a little sugar in there, a little added sugar for the yeast to feed on to help produce more of the bubbles. That's not always necessary though, because flour, another important ingredient for bread, has a lot of natural sugar in it that the yeast can feast on as well. But yeah, to begin, you basically add the yeast into a little bit of warm water, and it'll go all bubbly and foamy, and that's what's called the bloom. Now, the next thing that I'll go on is the different types of bread yeast. There are 3 main types of yeast derived from bread. The first one that I'm going to talk about is fresh yeast. This is what fresh yeast looks like. It basically comes in like a little hunk of block, a hunk of basically just compressed yeast. And you basically just take a little bit of that and you dissolve it in some water for the bloom. Now, fresh yeast can be stored in the dry storage, but it doesn't really store for all that long. But what you can do is instead store it in the freezer, and you can use it to greatly extend its lifespan. Basically, you just take the block, you put it in the freezer, and whenever you want bread, you could like take it out, maybe like shave off a little bit with a knife, and then add it to the water, and yeah, there's your bloom. The next type of yeast that is usually commercially available is active dry yeast. Now, active dry yeast comes in a container, something like this, like a form of little pearls, and it can be stored in dry storage for much longer than fresh yeast, and much like fresh yeast, it also requires the blooming. Now, the final type of yeast product that I'll talk about today is the one that I actually have right here, instant yeast. This is the one that I use to make my little baguette, actually. And so it comes in the same form as active dry yeast, usually in a little cylinder jar like this. But unlike active dry yeast, instant yeast does not need to be bloomed. It can be mixed straight into a recipe for a dough, and it'll work just as well. Although I would still recommend blooming it, just to be sure. Now, that just about does it for talking about bread yeast, but I'm not exactly done yet. A little tangent that I'll go on. So earlier I mentioned that one of the byproducts the yeast produces when it feeds on sugar is alcohol. And I mentioned how alcohol doesn't really serve a very large purpose in bread making, since the heat of the oven will cook it away. But it does serve another purpose for another certain industry, brewing. Yeast is used to produce several alcoholic beverages like beer, wine, and mead. And so what they basically do is they add yeast to like a sugary liquid, like in the case of beer, it being like the malt and like grain extracts. For wine, it'd be like the pressed grape juice. And so basically that sugar is all eaten up by the yeast and it's converted into alcohol. That's why many alcoholic drinks taste very bitter and not all that sweet, because the sugar is all eaten up by the yeast. Now, you can't exactly use the same type of yeast that you use to make bread. You can't use this to make alcohol. You need a special kind of brewer's yeast. This is what it looks like. It commonly comes in like little flakes, or sometimes it'll come in like a pouch already in liquid form, dissolved in some water. But yeah, just a quick little tangent about the other function of yeast besides bread making, the whole brewing industry. Anyway, that would just about do it for today. Hope you all enjoyed, and back to you, Aiden.
Interestingly enough, about yeast, Logan, I remember watching a video about these honey. What were they called? I think they were called honeydew beer makers. And this guy created a Mountain Dew wine. And how did he do it? He started off with Mountain Dew, a little bit of honey, and of course, yeast. I love yeast. Yeast is used for everything, and honestly, I feel like I learned.
Yeah, I think I actually watched that video too.
I love that guy. I love his ideas, especially for the fact that when. By the way, guys, for anybody who wants to know about the Mountain Dew wine making video, Mountain Dew actually succeeded in becoming a wine, and it had a 14% alcohol percentage, which is not too bad for a wine, honestly. But it was fantastic because it had the sugar, They actually had a lot of sugar, and that's why it did so well because the sheer amount of sugar in it.
What about the Mountain Dew moonshine? Sorry, Aiden.
Yeah, moonshine's also used. Any type of alcohol-based thing, you need yeast because the yeast eats away at the sugar. Thank you so much, Logan. I appreciate your cooking knowledge. You know what? You get to learn a little bit more, and I definitely have learned a lot. All right, guys, I brought 2 more news for you guys, so be ready. And if you guys know, I've been having a lot of people say that they love board games, and I actually had this board game specifically selected with the help of one of my friends, Zoe. And today's board game of the week, similar to video game of the week, but it's a board game, is going to be the Game Box Family Feud. So, what do you do in Family Feud, the Game Box Family Feud? One player acts as host to ask questions and verify responses, while the other players divide into 2 preferably equal teams. The teams each choose one of their own to face off to the question, and the host asks a question written on a card, and the member that is first to respond may control the question. If the response is top answer on the card, the other team gets 1 chance to give a higher rated response if the first team did not get the top rated response. And whichever team wins the face-off gets to try to name all the answers on the card, and each one that gets correct, they get points, and whoever gets the most points win. It is Family Feud into a board game. It's cool, it's simple, and the thing says here, if you want to have an extra add-on to your fun Family Feud night, get a big red button with a loud buzzer noise, and you got yourself a board game version of Family Feud. It's awesome, it's fun, and I really hope that you check it out. It looks awesome, and the funny thing is, all of this Family Feud related stuff is all packed into the Game Box. They're all made in a box, and they have games in them. The Game Box. Makes sense. All right, so we're going to keep moving forward, and in retrospect, I'm going to be sharing with you guys a podcast of the week. Why am I doing so many of the week? Because you know what? Our interests change every single week, and sometimes it's good to learn about many different types of things that we could do during the week. So today's podcast of the week is, once again, a very good one that you can learn a little bit more every single day start with this. So you want to learn a podcast that will entertain you and make you feel smart? Start with this. No, seriously, start with this. This podcast is made by Jeffrey Craner. Jeffrey Craner, the creator of Welcome to Night Vale, the creepy US podcast about an imaginary town. But Start With This is an interactive experience. First, you learn to an episode. Then you go and create something from what you've learned, be it writing an assignment or another bit of homework. Start With This strives to help you boost your creativity with episodes ranging from present tense to non-Lovecraftian horror. So it is awesome. It's a podcast where you get to do a little bit of homework every single episode. If you don't like homework, I guess it won't be the podcast for you. But if you want to start off with a podcast, I recommend starting off with this. All right. So also on community news, this week was an off week, so there was not any interesting news. But tune in next week, and you will be getting some interesting news that we did with the community and some awesome stuff. Anyways, though, I'm going to keep it moving. And next up is going to be Jeffrey. And what is Jeffrey going to be doing? He's going to be doing some.
Hi everybody, I'm Jeffrey, and it is that time again for me to bring you some music. And I've got some reggae music for you today. I'm gonna be playing "Get Up, Stand Up" by Bob Marley. So hope you like it. Get up, stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Preacher man, don't tell me heaven is under the earth. 'Cause I know you don't know what life is really worth. It's not all that glitters gold. After a star, never been told. So now we see the light. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Most people think great God will come from the sky, take away everything, make everybody feel high. But if you know what life is worth, you will look for yours on earth, and now you see the light. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Sick and tired of aces kissing dynamo to heaven in the Jesus name, Lord. We know when we understand, mighty God is a living man. Can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. So now we see the light. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. And I don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Get up for your right. Get up, stand up. And I don't give up the fight. And I don't give up the fight. And I don't give up the fight. 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 'Cause I'll never 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 give up the fight. Preacher man, oh tell me heaven is under the earth. 'Cause I know you don't know what life is really worth. It's not all that glitters gold. Half the story had never been told. So now we see the light. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. And I don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up. And I don't give up the fight. And I don't give up the fight. Sick and tired of the aces kissing dynamo to heaven in Jesus' name, Lord. We know what we understand. Mighty God is a living man. Can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And now we see the light. You gotta stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. So don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. 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 Thank you, everybody. This is Jeffrey, your live musician. I'll see you all next week. Make sure to check out my website, jeffreyinkerman.com. Anyways, it's back to you, Aiden. Bye, everybody.
You know what, Jeff? I love that song. It's a powerful message. Stand up, get up. Don't give up the fight. You know what? It's a really powerful message, and I really am glad that you wrote that song. It really stands for a lot. And it's a really, really great song. Anyways, though, thank you so much, Jeff. This has been the episode of your Friday evening with some Youth Connect. If you like Youth Connect, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
And don't forget to click the notification bell.
I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. You know what? Do something awesome. I hope that you guys are going to be having a fun time, and we will catch you in the next episode. Catch you later, guys. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.